Hi everyone, my name is Megan Jones and I'm a current nursing student in the LPN to BSN program at Indiana State University. Today we will be going over the first video in a small series of health education videos. And our topic for today is childhood obesity, how you can help combat the issue and help prevent it. Before we begin, I have a pre-test set for you guys, so if you can just take a minute, pause this presentation, and go ahead and take the pre-test, which you'll find in the link to this video. I'd appreciate it. So go ahead and pause that and then come back. Alright guys, thank you so much for taking that quiz. So we'll go ahead and get started with the rest of the presentation. So from this video today, what I really want for you to take away from it are some of these learning objectives. I'd really like you to know what childhood obesity is and how it's measured. I'd like you to be able how to describe that. Identify risk factors for childhood obesity. Identify possible psychological effects of childhood obesity, because unfortunately it's not just a physical thing, it also affects the mental health as well. Explain ways to maintain a healthy weight, whether that's through diet and exercise. Describe the long-term effects that childhood obesity can have on adulthood, because unfortunately, childhood obesity can affect you all the way into adulthood with chronic conditions like mental health again. And I'd also like you to identify resources to help manage and prevent childhood obesity. So our population that we're most concerned with, our population at risk, that is children 18 years of age and younger. So what exactly is childhood obesity? Childhood obesity is defined as an above normal weight based on height and age. And BMI, it's not really a diagnostic tool for identifying obesity in children, but rather a screening tool. Children are still growing and they're getting taller, so it's not like the BMI is kind of a harder thing to use, but they do use the growth chart, and the growth chart is good because it can identify what percentile children fall into when they're compared to their peers, someone of the same age and gender. So a BMI that would be in the 85th to 94th percentile, that would categorize someone as overweight. A BMI in the 95th percentile and above, that would be obese. So how this works is if you are in the 85th percentile, that means 85% of children that are your same age and gender, they weigh less than where you're at. But if you'd like to calculate your BMI and see where you're at, there's a link right there to the CDC website. You can copy that and see where you're at. So some more facts about childhood obesity. 1 in 5 children over age 6 are considered to be obese. And in a 2015-2016 study, they found that 18.5% of U.S. children in the population are considered to be obese, and that has drastically increased over the last 2 decades. One thing that has an effect that people might not think about is the socioeconomic status, and that's shown to be a bigger factor in obesity than ethnicity or other things like that. And because these people who might be in lower income housing are at higher risk because they might not have the financial means to provide healthier meals, because in today's world, getting fresh fruits and vegetables is much more costly than going through McDonald's and getting the dollar menu, and that's just really unfortunate. There may be a lack of access to healthier foods. Some neighborhoods might not have a big supermarket filled with different food choices, both healthy, and fresh to choose from. There may be less access to parks and recreational programs. So risk factors can be modifiable, which means they can be changed, or they might be non-modifiable, which cannot be. So modifiable would be your nutrition. You can change that. You want to stay away from fast food, fried foods, and sugary beverages and foods. You want to increase your activities. Sedentary lifestyles, they increase obesity. Increase your water intake, because a lack of water is not really a good thing. Sleep quality is important. A lack of sleep contributes to obesity, and larger portion sizes, they're contributing to obesity as well. You go to a restaurant and oftentimes you can have 2 or 3 meals out of what they give you. Non-modifiable risk factors, those are things like genetics, metabolism. It can also be stress or negative childhood events, lack of community resources, and like we talked about, the socioeconomic status. None of those things you can really control as a child. Now, the psychological effects that we talked about earlier, child obesity can affect more than just your physical aspects. It can have some pretty harmful psychological effects that include an increased risk of depression, increased risk of being bullied or teased in school, which is really unfortunate, a risk of social isolation, and decreased self-esteem. And these psychological effects, those can last even into adulthood. And speaking of lasting into adulthood, we have a risk for chronic health conditions. These conditions of, childhood obesity can place these children at risk for long-term conditions such as sleep disorders, bone and joint problems, heart disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, asthma, and other increased breathing difficulties. There can be type 2 diabetes, kidney failure, metabolic syndrome, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And parents, they can play a very pivotal role in preventing childhood obesity or helping to combat it. They can start by setting a positive example with eating healthier meals. They can encourage their kids to be active with them and perform activities as a family, going on walks, playing sports, swimming, dancing, preparing food as a family, helping to teach your kid what's a healthy choice and what are some good meal options. Eat meals together at the dinner table versus at the TV. And don't force your children to finish their plate. I know one of the old adages is you need to, finish your plate if you want dessert, or you can't leave the table till you finish your food. But really, you should only have your child eat until they are full. Provide and encourage healthier snack choices and limit temptation and availability of the unhealthy. You can also limit fast food intake, no more than once per week, but you might not even want to do it that much. Limit consumption of sugary beverages and snacks like we talked about before, and encouraging that water intake is very important. Teaching them appropriate portion sizes. Praise them for their healthy food choices so they feel that they want to keep making those choices. And don't prohibit enjoyable foods such as, those cookies or those brownies. Just give them in moderation. And limit time spent with sedentary activities such as browsing internet, TV watching, and video games. Encourage healthy eating habits. It is important to eat a healthy and well-balanced meal. We all know that. And that includes vegetables, fruits, whole grains, low-fat dairy products. Those all make for some really great choices. Again, knowing your portion sizes and increasing that water intake, those are all very important to healthy eating. And again, limiting sugary foods and beverages. A really good resource to have is My Plate. I've also included that link, so if you wanted to see some portion sizes and what your plate should look like, that's a really good resource for your kids to look at too. Something that's really important is increasing activity, but you should increase your children to increase their activity. Don't say go on a diet and exercise, because that's kind of like a negative connotation for kids. The goal for children who are overweight and obese is not to lose weight, but at least to maintain it, so that as they grow taller, their weight becomes more balanced. Children ages 3 to 5, their recommended activity is just, throughout the day. When they're in daycare, they have playtime all the time. Children ages 6 to 17, they want them to have 60 minutes of moderate activity daily, and that can be broken down into smaller moments like 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. Encourage vigorous activity, like more aerobic activity 3 times per week, as well as muscle and bone strengthening exercises such as running, jumping, playing 3 times a week as well. Some resources are available within your state, local, and community levels to help combat childhood obesity. So the CDC website has a link to help you learn more. If you wanted to check that out, I've included it. And then I've listed all my references here if you wanted to go ahead and check any of them out. But now that this quiz is over, I hope you learned a little bit more about childhood obesity and some really good ways to help combat it and prevent it. And if you'd like to go ahead and take that post test and see how your answers have changed or see how you do, I'd appreciate it. And thanks so much.